Good morning everyone, and thank you very much for being here. My name is Ioannis Zervas, and this study is co-authored with Professor Emmanouil Stiakakis from the Department of Applied Informatics at the University of Macedonia in Greece. Today I will present our study entitled From Digital Skills to Work Execution: The Role of Digital Translation Capacity in Contemporary Organizations. The main idea of the presentation is simple but important. Organizations do not create value only because employees have digital skills. Value is created when these skills are translated into effective work execution. Let me begin with a practical observation. Organizations invest heavily in digital tools, platforms, systems, and training. Employees are expected to become more digitally competent, more flexible, and more productive. However, in practice, we often see a different picture. Two employees may have similar digital skills and access to the same tools, but their work outcomes may be very different. One employee may use digital tools to improve coordination, solve problems faster, and organize work more effectively. Another employee may know the same tools but fail to integrate them into everyday routines. So the question behind this study is, what explains the difference between digital competence and actual work execution? Much of the existing discussion assumes that digital skills naturally lead to better performance. In other words, the common assumption is, if employees have digital skills, then execution quality will improve. But the relationship is not always automatic. Digital competence is important, but it is not the same as execution. Competence shows what an employee is able to do. Execution shows what the employee actually does in real work situations. This distinction is important for contemporary organizations because digital transformation is not only about adopting technologies. It is also about changing how work is performed, coordinated, and delivered. Therefore, we argued that there is a missing link between digital competence and execution quality. This missing link is the employee's ability to translate digital knowledge into practical action. This study is based on three connected gaps. First, there is a literature gap. Previous research has examined digital skills mainly as individual competencies. This is useful, but it does not fully explain how these competencies become work outcomes. Second, there is a research gap. Many studies focus on whether employees have digital skills, but less attention is given to the process through which these skills are converted into action. Third, there is an empirical gap. Existing studies often examine digital adoption, readiness, or competence levels. Fewer studies focus on execution quality in real organizational settings. So, the theoretical shift of these studies from what employees know to what employees do with what they know. This is the main contribution of the study. We reframe digital capability as a process of conversion into operational value. To explain this conversation process, we introduce the concept of digital translation capacity, or simply as DTC. We define digital translation capacity as the employee's ability to convert digital knowledge, tools, and system possibilities into practical routines and role-relevant action. In simple terms, DTC is the ability to make digital knowledge useful in daily work. It includes three important elements. First, it transforms digital knowledge into action. Second, it creates repeatable work routines. And third, it explains why employees with similar digital competence may perform differently. This concept is useful because it moves the discussion beyond skill possession. It focuses on application, adoption, and execution. Based on this logic, the study develops three hypotheses. The first hypothesis is that digital competence positively affects digital translation capacity. Practically, this means that employees with stronger digital competence are expected to have a better foundation for translating digital tools into work practices. The second hypothesis is that digital competence positively affects execution quality. This reflects the direct role of digital skills in improving how work is performed. And the third hypothesis is that digital translation capacity positively affects execution quality. This is the central hypothesis of the study, and we expect that employees who can translate digital possibilities into routines and action will achieve higher execution quality. Together, three hypotheses test both the direct role of digital competence and the explanatory role of digital translation capacity. In this slide, there is a presentation of the conceptual model. The model has three main constructs: digital competence, digital translation capacity, and execution quality. Digital competence is connected to digital translation capacity. Digital competence is also connected directly to execution quality. And finally, digital translation capacity is connected to execution quality. So, the model allows us to examine whether digital competence improves execution directly, but also whether part of this relationship works through digital translation capacity. In other words, we examine DTC as the mechanism that helps explain how digital skills become actual work execution. For the empirical part of the study, data were collected through a questionnaire. The sample includes 433 employees from multiple sectors. Data collection took place between October 2025 and February 2026. The questionnaire included demographic questions and 18 Likert scale items. These items measured three constructs: digital competence, digital translation capacity, and work execution quality. The analysis was conducted using PLS-SEM method through Smart PLS software because the aim was to examine the relationships between latent constructs and to assess the explanatory power of the proposed model. This method is appropriate for the study because we are interested in understanding how digital competence and translation capacity jointly explain execution quality in organizational settings. So, what about measurement model? Before examining the structural relationships, we first assessed the measurement model. The results support the reliability and the validity of the constructs. Internal consistency was within acceptable levels. The AVE values supported convergent validity, meaning that the indicators adequately represented their constructs. Collinearity was also checked and no critical issues was identified. Overall, the measurement model provided a solid basis for evaluating the structural model. This is important because the interpretation of the relationships between constructs depend on the quality of the measurement model. And here we can see the empirical PLS-SEM model. This slide presents an image of the model from the Smart PLS software. The model shows the path coefficients, the indicator loadings, and the R-squared values. The results indicate that the relationship between digital competence and digital translation capacity is positive. The path from digital competence to execution quality is also positive, but weaker. The strongest path is from digital translation capacity to execution quality. This supports the main argument of the study. Digital competence matters, but it becomes more valuable when employees can translate it into action. So the PLS model provides empirical support for the idea that DTC works, but as an important explanatory mechanism. The structural model results show the explanatory power of the model. Digital competence explains around 29.5% of the variance in digital translation capacity. This means that digital competence is an important predictor of the employee's ability to translate digital possibilities into practical work routines. For execution quality, the model explains 42.8% of the variance. This is a meaningful result in an organizational behavior context because execution quality is influenced by many factors such as leadership, culture, job design, workload, and organizational processes. Therefore, explaining 42.8% of execution quality suggests that the model captures an important part of how digital capability becomes operational value. And here we have the hypothesis testing. The hypothesis testing results all three hypotheses. Hypothesis 1, H1, is supported. Digital competence positively affects digital translation capacity. H2, the second hypothesis, is also supported as well because digital competence has a direct positive effect on execution quality, although this effect is a bit weaker. And last but not least, the third hypothesis is supported as well. Digital translation capacity positively affects execution quality, and this is the strongest effect in the model. The key finding is that digital translation capacity operates as the main explanatory mechanism between digital competence and execution. This means that organizations should not only ask whether employees have digital skills, they should also ask whether employees can use these skills to improve actual work practices. And now we have the discussion section. The findings help clarify the difference between competence and execution. Digital competence represents potential. It reflects knowledge of tools, familiarity with systems, and the ability to use digital technologies. But potential does not automatically become performance. Digital translation capacity represents application. It reflects the ability to connect digital tools with routines, coordination, and role-relevant action. This distinction is central to the study. Employees may know the same tools, but they may not use them in the same way. You can find it as a form of digital divide in bibliography. What differentiates them is their capacity to translate digital knowledge into effective execution. So the study suggests that digital transformation should be understood not only as a technological process, but also as a work execution process. And now we have the implication. The study has both practical and theoretical implications. From a practical perspective, the findings suggest that training alone is not enough. Organizations often invest in digital training, but training should be connected to daily routines, job roles, and actual work processes. Managers should support employees not only in learning digital tools, but also in applying these tools in concrete work situations. This means helping employees build routines, redesign small work practices, and connect digital systems with task execution. From a theoretical perspective, the study introduced digital translation capacity as a distinct story construct. It helps explain the gap between digital competence and execution quality. It also shifts attention from the possession to conversion, and I mean the possession of digital skills to the conversion of digital skills into operational value. The managerial message is clear. Organizations should develop translation capacity, not only digital competence. And last but not least, we have limitation, future research, and conclusion in this slide. Like every study, we have limitation in this research. First, the data are cross-sectional. Future research could examine digital translation capacity over time, especially during ongoing digital transformation projects. Second, the measures are self-reported. Future studies could include supervisor ratings, behavioral data, or performance indicators. Third, the model focuses on three main constructs. Future research could include additional factors such as leadership, organizational culture, job design, or team coordination. To conclude, the study shows that digital competence is important, but it is not sufficient on its own. The real value of digital capability emerges when employees can translate digital knowledge into consistent execution. So the core message is this: value is not created by digital competence alone, but by the ability to translate it into practical, repeatable, and effective work action. Thank you very much. I would be happy to take your questions.